It took me a long time to become a wife for lots of reasons, but a big one was that wife is a debased word for me. In my head, it's like wet nurse or vice president. Someone who's just totally pwned by a powerful tyrant. In the beginning, I thought that being a wife meant having a husband, a man, and since I didn't want one of those, I figured I didn't want a marriage, and that was that. And then I went to college, and I minored in women's studies, if you know what I mean. Actually, I mean I took a large number of classes about gender dynamics and a pussy. And after a few years after college, my friends Mary Frances and Jen had a commitment ceremony, and it was kind of rollsy, with Mary Frances in a white dress and Jen in a suit and me playing Ani DeFranco on the guitar. And since they are Quakers, like actual Quakers with a meeting, it was a Quaker wedding where we sat in a circle and passed around the rings and got to speak whenever we felt moved by the Spirit to speak. And it was beautiful and a good thing. And it was moving, and many of us for the first time thought, hey, maybe they're onto something. But I'm not sure yet that we, the gay homosexuals as a community, were fighting for marriage. I know I hadn't been convinced that marriage was something I wanted, no matter what you called it. And then skipping over the single years, I met the woman who became my wife. She's here, just so you know, she's over there. Tonight I will also be skipping the part where we fell in love, when we moved in together, when we fought a whole lot, when we decided to stay together. And then there was the Sunday morning when I woke up to the sound of her crawling across the floor. She was in so much pain that she couldn't stand up, but she was still trying to get to work. She was crying and dry heaving and trying to pull her jeans on all at once. And the only reason I could get her to go to the hospital was because she was too weak to resist me. And at the hospital, they asked me who I was. And I stammered, I'm her girlfriend, like I'm her partner. We've been together for years. And I wondered if I should have driven to the other hospital in the richer part of town, as if that meant they would treat me better. But the nurse just nodded and said, family waiting room is on the left, and they took her appendix out. And they treated me just great, but they didn't have to, and that made me afraid. And I still didn't really believe in marriage as something I wanted or needed. I felt it was archaic and unnecessary, and we, that as LBGTQ and Q people, should struggle for the abolition of straight privilege, not for the confirmation of higher class citizens defined by sexual servitude and adherence to the old dances of butch and femme. And meanwhile, my childhood best friend had become a lawyer in the deep South. And one day, as we were walking along a country road, she said, I could do nothing for the rest of my life but follow you around and try to secure for you, one by one, all of the rights that are conferred upon you by marriage. I would have to do it state by state, private hospital by private hospital. You would sign reams of papers. We would, if challenged by, for instance, this state here where they make really good cheesy grits, go to court again and again for every right, and in the meantime your girlfriend would die in the hospital and your children would be taken away and your house would be given to your sister, and you would not be able to pick up one another's dry cleaning without a photo ID, or you could just get married. Just have the language to explain to everyone else what you are to one another and the instant understanding of that relationship, which is honored in every state and the world over. Just be married to her, be a wife. And I explained to her how I felt about the word wife and the vice presidency, and she said, oh, get the fuck over yourself. If you don't wield enough personal power to keep yourself from being subjugated by the person who loves you best in the whole world because of one word, then you don't deserve your equality. So I gave that some thought. And since I had someone I wanted to love and be with forever, it made more and more sense all the time. It wasn't conceptual. It was, what if next time it's more than her appendix? One day I said, what if I wanted to raise any kids we had Jewish? So that took like 2 years. And one day I said, I really want to marry you. How would you feel if I proposed? And she said, if you keep your mouth shut and lay low about it for a while, I promise you'll get what you want. So I did. for another 2 years. And finally she proposed to me, and she said that she wanted to care for me in sickness and in health. And I said yes 3 times before she was done asking, and the next day I got very, very ill, so she would have to prove it. And our wedding was super rollsy, with me in a white dress and her in a blue suit, and I loved every second of it, especially when they lifted us both up on chairs and danced the hora like Fiddler on the fucking roof, because we are raising any hypothetical children Jewish. Before we moved, she said to me, I had dreams I meant to achieve, but instead I married you and settled down to do a series of repetitive tasks that support you, and I realized that I had made her my wife. And it was time to switch that up. So less than a year after we married, she asked me to quit my job and leave my friends in the town that I love and move with her to a strange land where we knew no one, and I did it because I believed her. And when she said I would be happier, and if I wasn't, we would come back. And many of our friends in Los Angeles are trans persons and capital Q queer, and our life as married lesbians who are living as the same gender as we were born into now looks lame. And we are old, and all our old words are out of fashion, and they call it gender studies now, and I don't know what they eat. And all the drugs we use are legal in California. Our friends are bravely smashing the gender binary with their daily appearance and seek to fuck up people's sense of entitled security through the embracing of neither nor, and we have them over for nutritious home-cooked dinners. And Prop 8 was passed, even though no one but Mormons and Courtney Love will admit to voting for it, which means everyone just secretly hates us. And I can be a really negative person. I don't believe in anything anymore, not politics, not activism, not the water from the tap. I believe the hormones they pump into cows are amplified in the milk, and that's used to make the cheese I can't stop spreading on Triscuits, and that those hormones are the reason my mother is a 32A cup and I'm a 34 double D, and I am ambivalent about that last part, and so is my wife. But here is the great part of being a wife and having one. I believe in her utterly. That she loves me and wants to see my dreams come true and wants to live together until we are old and saggy. Until I invent sex toys that make our sex toys look like lavender plexiglass dolphins that you have to hold upside down with your hand. And now that's what we do. Usually without any grace or subtle maneuvering, we just shout it out. I feel like your wife. And then we switch it up. Because that is the thing about homos. We understand drama and costumes and choreography. Maybe the show must go on, but we feel it deep down. The roles can be recast again and again. I bring good news from the front. Marriage changes nothing about the core of you. Those of us who are strange on the inside are always going to be strange on the inside. Those of us haunted by existential despair and a pressing feeling against our chests that loneliness cannot be alleviated by human interaction, we will still feel these ways. The sense that all is lost and one might as well lay down and eat Nutella from the jar using kettle-fried chips as utensils continues unabated when married. But it gives you someone to talk to about all that shit for as long as you were both alive, forever, together. Which maybe you can get without being married, but has made it easier for me. Easier to try to do big things and make big changes. And it frees the enormous part of my mind that used to be devoted to trying to make everyone love me in case nobody loved me. And it frees the enormous part of my mind that used to be devoted to making sure everyone might fuck me if I asked them to fuck me, because I'm well fucked. It's easier to feel trust, which is part of peacefulness, which is of some concern just now. And that is not a crime in 8 states, 1 district, and 1 tribal land. I am her wife, and she is mine. It isn't legal yet, but it's true.